Welcome, everybody, and hello to the first Digital Dialogues of 2025. Tulia, I hope you had a lovely holiday. You got a chance to rest, you got a chance to read, delve into this world a little bit more.
I did have a chance to rest. I wish I could have read more. I had plenty of books here beside me thinking like, oh, I'm going to go through all of this. But you don't know what happens during these festivities, that the time just flies. And now we are already starting the year.
Well, and it's a very social time as well. You think you're going to be here, and then you go there, you're back, and then your time kind of disappears. But I imagine, because I know you did have some time to be curious. So, what were you delving into? What would you like to talk about tonight?
I would like to talk with you here tonight, brainstorm with you, and share with the people there. What has been your experience with the generative AI for creating content? Because I've been, of course, now in LinkedIn, there's a lot going on. Everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's giving tips about AI. And there's some message that even like a little bit controversial, which I think is good because it keeps the conversation going. And since we started this digital dialogue, the purpose was let's talk about this subject and learn from it. But I would like to talk to you here about what I could say. I would even like to denominate kind of canned prompts, because like the prompt architecture that you need for communicating with the generative AI, where you need to explain what you want it to do for you, what kind of research. But I've seen a lot of suggestions of prompts that they're good as a starting point, but I can see that they're just touching the very tip of the iceberg of this huge possibility that I see that we can get from generative AI.
Well, I remember, just while you're telling that, a quick anecdote, that when I was studying history pre-university, that was something that our teacher always used to say to us, that his explanations of history were only as good as the questions that we asked him. So, it's similar, really, what you're saying here, in that, yes, ChatGTP or agents like it can give you all of these answers, but really so much of it, and this is the good news in terms of keeping it human, so much of it comes down to the quality of the questions that you ask, the prompts that you put in, because if you're putting in mediocre prompts, you're going to be getting information that doesn't go deep, isn't specialized. So there's a whole world beyond the tell me, did you like this post prompts, right?
Exactly. And I would like to share a metaphor that I've learned last year and in a video that I was watching, and where the guy was explaining what exactly generative AI is, etc. And he gives this metaphor of thinking about it as the Einstein in your basement.
Yes.
What exactly is this? Well, first, the basement means because the basement is where you usually put your tools. So you
Yeah.
have an Einstein tool in your basement, something that has the capabilities, the intellect, the resources as an Einstein and beyond, that is just there at your hand for you on demand anytime you go there to take it, to use it. But if you don't know how to use this Einstein, if you don't know how to elaborate these conversations with Einstein, is exactly as you said, it's like it would be just a basic conversation. You're not taking the most of your tool. And what I would like to invite people here is start going deeper in this conversation with generative AI, because I even got like one of the things shared in LinkedIn. There was a series of suggestions of how to address certain issues, or certain how to get the solutions for certain things by asking ChatGPT, and the prompts were very simple. But the way it's presented, it feels like that, hey guys, this is what you have to do, and then you have the problem solved.
Yeah, I
And
think
that is, for me, is where I feel like that we have to start raising flags, because then yes, we will start having this very much alike general, generic answers and posts and articles that then we start identifying, because we start saying, oh, this was not a human made, it was GPT made.
but absolutely. But I mean, I think things come in waves because I definitely noticed because like you, I had gone home, I had stopped a bit, I was a bit more focused sometimes on social media. You know, you're connecting because people are sending you best wishes for the holidays and Christmas and stuff. But I definitely started to notice that there was this huge amount of posts, 6 ChatGPT prompts that are going to change your life, 7 ChatGPT prompts that are going to earn you 250,000 in a year, 8 ChatGPT points that are going to, and it was just this enormous offer of the same prompts in different ways. Sometimes there were six, sometimes there were eight, sometimes the objective was different. One might have been a bit financial, one might have been find your true self. But when you actually went in and looked at the questions, they were essentially the same questions.
Absolutely.
And very open-ended, kind of generic questions that you're thinking, but I mean, if, like you said, if a million of us and we're all a million different humans with completely different lives are putting in the same question, how could it possibly give us back answers that are specific to us?
Yes, I think the important is for everybody is start finding the process, your working process with the agent, right? And I understand that this, as I call the canned prompts, this very simple, the tip of the iceberg prompts, are a very good starting for you to start if it's an idea that you don't know much about it, you just want to get some kind of guidance about the topic, and you don't have enough information, and like you haven't done too much research about it. Of course, you have to start from somewhere, so you will start from something very simple. I can give you, for example, I read here something that I got today that I found interesting, because it was a list of what can you do type of prompt. For example, the critical thinking, and here says, as a prompt, as a suggestion, challenge me with a series of thought-provoking questions on quote quote subject. So you have to put the subject there.
So
After
finance.
each, yes, that it will be your sentence. After each question, provide feedback on my answer and suggest how I can improve my critical thinking on this topic. So it's a very good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But however, we should never just stop there. That is just your starting point. And here is, I believe, is where the beauty starts, because then you have that as a reference, and then you can start going deeper and deeper with what the feedback you received. And we know that those agents go learning in the progress. So your agent, your chatty, my Spocky, they already communicate and deliver
And
answers
remember,
in different ways.
yes,
They
and they
deliver
remember.
in your way, in Cormac way, and Tulia way, because they already know our style. They already know things that we like saying or we don't like saying. But my invitation for everybody there is also to start exploring, challenging your own self, challenging, asking the agent to challenge you in your idea, as if like I have a concept about the best way to deal with this particular difficult conversation or negotiation. And I think that's the best way to do. What do you think about it? And then see what is going to answer back to you. And then you can even say, I don't want you to agree with me. I want you to challenge me. And that is a good exercise that we can do and start taking the most of this relationship with our agents. And also, that is where I believe, and I can speak for myself, that really augment your own communication skills.
What I tend to see now with people, I don't know if it's the same in your circle, is that people that are kind of our age, professionally speaking, have done very well. A lot of people that I've introduced this tool to, you know, it's the same reaction that I get a lot where people get extremely excited when they see what it can do, and then they're thinking of all the ways that they can actually start using it, but then they don't actually take the step to use it. And
Mm.
love it, and it's mesmerizing, and it's so different, and the reaction is always the same. Wow, look at this! But then they haven't taken that step to incorporate it yet. It's a bit like, I don't know. Tulia and I both live in Barcelona. For anybody that's watching this, I remember this craze where every Spanish Catalan kitchen that I walked into had a Thermomix in the corner. And that's not so common at home in Ireland. And you'd say to the person, "Wow, this is amazing. What do you make?" "Oh, I can make 100 things, but I just make bread." And you're looking at it going, "Okay, that's fine. You're making bread. That's wonderful, but it can do all of these wonderful things. You can tell me all the things that it can do for you, but right now it's like an ornament in your kitchen because you're still doing those things, but you're doing it the old way."
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of people now with AI that understand that it's this massive encyclopedia, Einstein in your basement, et cetera, but they're not sure. And this is where something like what you're talking about and what you find, they're not sure of the approach. They're not sure, how can I start to interact with this agent in a way that doesn't feel scary, that feels it's accessible to me. So I think sometimes, and you shared it with me before, actually, this particular list of prompts that you found, I think, is much more helpful than the generic variation I was seeing on Instagram over Christmas, for example.
Yeah. And the other thing I saw today in one post on LinkedIn was someone made a list of words. And the post was saying, do not use these words because ChatGPT use those words very often. So people will know that you use ChatGPT to write your post. I said, hello, excuse me. And then I answered and said, well, I'm sorry. I use many of those words for expressing myself. And even someone said, well, listen, for us who are not native speakers, these words, which are very formal words in the business environment, words that we use anyway. So it's eliminating those words just because ChatGPT has been using them. I don't think this is a way of saying, no, my post is not 100% generated by AI. I think the important thing here is if you see that AI is my Spocky, for example, is using same expressions, because this happened, they start using same expressions, using more often certain words, you can ask for synonyms of those words. You can ask, please, can you rephrase this expression? I don't want to use the expression very often. What are other options? Here are my suggestions. This is what I do. And this is when, by doing this, and when you're saying people sometimes maybe don't know how to interact, these are kind of the interactions you have to start trying. It's not just saying, oh, eliminate, I don't want to use those words anymore, because then people would see that I've been using your support to create my posts. Thank God we have the support right now, because now I can really spend time writing much more, because everything with the support, with the back and forth, with the brainstorm, I get to a final article or a post much faster, because I have an idea, I propose the idea, I get feedback, I reshape it, I send back for review. I use it a lot for reviewing because I'm not native. I make mistakes, but one thing is making mistakes when you're speaking is more acceptable, but when writing is a different story. So these are things that we have to start being, I believe, be more careful, not start trying to standardize, because this is ChatGPT, I can see, and then also qualifying or disqualifying the person's content because it's that was with
And
ChatGPT.
you've yeah, and that happens, and I have had people in my life that tell me I can spot a Chat GPT post a mile away, and I'm thinking, well, like you, Tulia, I use it for ideas to spark conversations. I use it to review, which I'm going to talk about now in a second. And I think I do this on quite a regular basis. And I would struggle if somebody put something in front of me saying, pick out the five of them that are definitely done 100% by Chat GPT. And I think one of the things you and I have talked about is this concept, Einstein and investment, best research assistant you could have. But I'm increasingly finding myself going to the agent saying, listen, I want to talk about this. Like you said, I put in my idea, they bring it back, they add to it. But it's when I've then written the post or I'm getting closer to the version I want, I am finding myself increasingly putting that back into the system and saying, okay, review that. Is there repetition? Am I saying things in a roundabout way? Is there a more direct way of saying it? Then it'll give me back something that I will then add to manually myself. But as a review tool, and this is nothing to do with native, non-native. This is to do with, is this wordy? Is it too lengthy? Is there too much repetition? Could I say this in a different way? Could this be two different posts instead of one? Because oftentimes all of us, no matter what your language is, you're writing something that in your mind is so clear, but oftentimes you don't see the wood for the trees. And then when you review it, and it has happened to me, I've had Chatty come back and say, there is a chance for this to be two separate posts. And I might
Mm-hmm.
not have seen that myself.
And exactly, and I had the experience, for example, that I asked for review and then it gives me a more polished outcome. And then I read it, I said, no, this is not me. I don't like this. I want to keep this wording. Want to keep this phrasing, maybe correct grammatically, okay, which is different, but I want to keep this kind of flow. I want to keep this kind of style and etc. So this is what I want to bring here today. And for someone listen there, it's good to get all this conversation in LinkedIn and other platforms about AI. It's important, and we have been a few months already talking to this about this in Cormac, and we will continue. And we are already incorporating several things in our trainings in terms of how people can practice and creating some different systems for practicing using different AI tools. And my suggestion to people is, yes, take those canned prompts or those generic suggestions to get started, but do not stop there, because there's a lot you can still discover and benefit from. And I just discovered, and I'm going to share with you, Cormac, that ChatGPT has another sub-agent. So my Spocky has a negotiator.
Yes, you
There
mentioned
is
it.
negotiator. Maybe
Yes.
some people watching there, they know already, but for me, is a novelty. And I'm now going to explore the negotiator. And I asked, how can I use you? How can you help me better? And there was a several of possibilities that was given to me, which we will leave for the next chapter, for our next episode. Let's talk about the negotiator next
Yeah, okay.
Monday.
Next time we're going to talk about the negotiator, because we have decided, as we explained already, going into the new year, that we would keep these conversations briefer than before. So we have come to the end of our time today. Tulia, as always, it's been a pleasure. I hope that anybody that watches this little brief conversation does learn a bit more from us, with us, as we're learning ourselves, and just finding that this is an agent, a tool, a chatty, a spocky, call it Peter if you want, that can really make a difference to the quality of your work, the quantity of your work, and that at least up until now, you are always the person that's in charge.
Absolutely. In 2025, I believe we are just starting. This conversation became more dynamic in the second semester of last year. And
Yes.
I believe by the end of this year, I think it's going to be we will see a huge impact in our professionals' lives with everything that AI is bringing. Yeah, we are focusing on the positives, okay? We know there's a lot of controversies, there's a lot of situations. We are following many peoples. We are following Yuval Harari, who is one voice send out the alerts and all the flags of all the possible drama and damage. But we are not there. We are not going to go there because we are not in the technology. So we are focusing on how much we can benefit from this.
Yes, and I think it's true, because we have touched on it before, Tulia and I, that we are acknowledging that there are wonderful things about it. We're acknowledging that there are things that may not be so wonderful and that we haven't even contemplated yet. The only argument that doesn't change with Tulia and I is that we are promoting curiosity around it because our personal curiosity has led us to use an agent that has made differences in our professional life, and we think it can for other people. Those wider conversations, we will touch on them in the future. We're not ignoring them, but right now the rallying call from Tuli and I is try it, see how it can benefit you. Don't get left behind because, are we going to try it on the one, two, three? One, two, three. Everything starts with communication. That's Julia's face with my voice. That's a scary note to leave you on for the rest of the day. Okay,
I
thank
was
you.
just mimicking you.
Thank you very much, Tulia. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.